Thomas Miller stood quietly in the empty hallway of Westwood High, his mop resting against the wall beside him. It was his last day, and the silent corridors seemed colder than usual. 40 years of early mornings, late nights, and quiet dedication were coming to an end today. Thomas had always imagined retirement as a joyful time, a well-earned rest after years of hard work. But now that the day was here, he felt only a deep, unsettling sadness. He glanced down the empty hallway, his eyes lingering on the worn tiles he'd scrubbed every day. How many footsteps had he erased? How many whispers had he overheard through these long halls? He knew the school better than anyone else. Every squeaky door, every leaky faucet, every hidden corner. Yet, as he stared at the quiet halls now, he felt invisible. Had anyone really noticed his years of service? Did anyone even care? With a heavy sigh, Thomas picked up his mop for the final time, feeling chills run down his spine. Something about this last day felt wrong, incomplete, as if the world had forgotten him entirely. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. He spent the afternoon cleaning out his small janitor's closet, packing away tools and memories. Photos pinned to the wall showed smiling students he had quietly helped in moments of need. They might never have known it was him who cleaned their muddy shoes, replaced lost lunch money, or fixed their broken backpacks. But Thomas remembered every face, every grateful smile. Still, what good was remembering now that it was all over? At the retirement party that evening, Thomas tried to smile, to act grateful. But the cake tasted bland, the cheerful speeches sounded hollow. Colleagues shook his hand, saying things like, "Enjoy your freedom!" and "You'll finally have time for yourself." But Thomas didn't want freedom or free time. He wanted to matter. When the crowd dispersed, he walked slowly to his small empty apartment, dread pooling in his stomach. He had no family, no spouse, no children, just an apartment filled with silence. Days passed, each emptier than the last. Thomas sat alone, feeling useless, forgotten, and afraid. He worried about money, about loneliness, about the endless hours stretching out before him. He had worked 40 years, yet had nothing to show for it except aching joints and fading memories. A week after retirement, Thomas forced himself to log into his bank account, bracing himself for disappointment. He expected to see the small, pitiful pension deposit, barely enough to scrape by. Instead, his heart nearly stopped. Millions of dollars stared back at him from the glowing screen. The numbers blurred before his eyes, impossibly large, impossibly real. Thomas rubbed his eyes, refreshed the page again and again. The impossible fortune remained. His hands trembled as he dialed the bank's number. Surely this was a mistake. Money like this didn't just appear from nowhere. As the bank representative calmly confirmed the transaction, Thomas felt chills flood his body. An anonymous deposit, completely legal, completely his. But who would do this? Who could possibly have such wealth, and why give it to a forgotten janitor? His mind raced through memories, piecing together fragments of the past. Could it be connected to the quiet acts of kindness he'd done over the years? But he'd been careful, discreet. No one knew about his small generosity, right? Then a memory flashed vividly. Daniel, a young boy from decades ago, desperate and struggling to stay in school. Thomas had secretly paid Daniel's tuition, sacrificing his own comfort without ever expecting thanks. Could Daniel be behind this? As if fate had read his mind, Thomas's phone rang. The number was blocked. His pulse quickened. "Thomas Miller?" a voice asked softly. "Yes," Thomas whispered, his heart pounding. "This is Daniel," the voice said, gentle yet firm. "I never forgot your kindness. You changed my life, and now I'm here to change yours." Thomas sank into his chair, speechless. His eyes filled with tears, his mind spinning. Daniel explained how he had become a billionaire entrepreneur, all because one janitor had believed in him when no one else did. "The money is yours, Thomas. You've earned it." When the call ended, Thomas stared at the blank screen, stunned. His quiet, unnoticed act had mattered, more than he ever imagined. Days turned into weeks filled with dreams he'd never dared to dream. Yet something still tugged at his heart. Thomas knew the money wasn't meant just for him. It had a greater purpose. He began making plans, driven by urgency, by a powerful determination. This could change everything, he thought repeatedly, for the students, for the school, for everyone. He returned to Westwood High one afternoon, no longer the janitor, but a special guest. Students whispered curiously as Thomas shared his incredible story on the school auditorium stage. He announced the creation of the Thomas Miller Scholarship Fund, ensuring no deserving student would ever struggle or feel forgotten again. The crowd erupted in applause, teachers wiping tears from their eyes. Thomas felt chills again, but this time they were warm, comforting. He had finally found his purpose. Weeks later, the school unveiled a plaque bearing his name, renaming the main corridor Miller Way. Thomas stood quietly before the plaque, humbled. He had never sought recognition, but seeing his name etched into the school's history filled him with profound pride. Yet despite his newfound wealth, Thomas remained humble, dedicated to helping others. He personally visited struggling students, quietly paying for their books, meals, and clothing. He ensured the janitorial staff received fair wages, dignity, and respect, something he'd never experienced himself. His generosity became legendary, inspiring others far beyond Westwood High. Newspapers and TV reporters sought him out, eager to share his incredible story. But Thomas shied away from the spotlight, preferring to quietly continue his mission of kindness. As the years passed, Thomas gained something even more precious than money: a family. Students, teachers, parents, all became his extended loved ones, filling holidays and birthdays with warmth and laughter. He traveled the world, spreading kindness wherever he went, delighting in simple joys he'd never thought possible. Yet, despite his happiness, Thomas never forgot the lonely janitor he'd once been. His fortune was not about luxury or extravagance, but about changing lives, about leaving the world better than he found it. Time continued moving swiftly, and Thomas grew older. Though his body slowed, his spirit remained strong, fueled by gratitude, generosity, and joy. He had lived fully, loved deeply, and given endlessly, knowing his legacy would continue long after he was gone. One winter evening, Thomas sat quietly on his porch, watching snowflakes drift gently through the fading twilight. He smiled softly, reflecting on his life's extraordinary journey. From a forgotten janitor to a beloved hero, fate had truly rewarded the unnoticed. When Thomas passed away peacefully a few months later, his legacy flourished. Thousands of students benefited from his scholarships, carrying forward his lessons of humility and kindness. The halls of Westwood High echoed with stories of the janitor who changed the world through quiet generosity. And though Thomas Miller was gone, his spirit lived on, reminding everyone that even the smallest act of kindness could ripple outward, changing lives forever. He had started as an unnoticed man, quietly mopping floors and fixing faucets, but he left the world a hero, proving beyond any doubt that kindness always mattered. His story became legend, inspiring generations to come. And somewhere Daniel stood quietly at Thomas's funeral, whispering softly, "Thank you," as chills ran down his spine. Because he knew better than anyone, the smallest kindness could indeed change everything.